Welcome to the Valley Today, a public service presentation of KAIL-TV. Santa Maria Tri-Tip was accidentally discovered by Bob Schutz and Larry Villegas back in the late 50s at the Safeway store in Santa Maria. Brent Walton of Q and For You fame in Clovis is going to show us how to cook it correctly and cut it. It's all next on the Valley Today. Well, welcome to the Valley Today. We are with Brent Walton here at Q and For You Barbecue House here on Clovis Avenue in Clovis.
You got it.
And you are the barbecue master.
That's what I say.
Yeah. And today we're talking about Tri-Tip, a California original classic, a California classic, Santa Maria Tri-Tip.
Correct.
And tell us a little bit about Tri-Tip. Tell us the origins
Tri-Tip
of it.
is exclusive really to California and still is and has been for a long time. And the Tri-Tip itself was kind of born out of a necessity, and the Santa Maria style barbecue was all born out of necessity, kind of like barbecue always is everywhere it is in the world, really.
Right.
This was originally the style of barbecuing these Tri-Tips, which they actually used a top sirloin originally, was the cut of meat that the cowboys and stuff used. And it really was the unsaleable meat that usually the people got to barbecue.
Right.
The cowboys, the vaqueros, the guys working the ranches and farms back then. And they had to make do with whatever meat they gave them.
Yeah.
But they came up with amazing methods, and that's really what it was, the methods that they used to cook this stuff and make it become something. In Texas, it's the brisket or the ribs, you know, in the South and all that. Well, the Santa Maria Tri-Tip is no different. And the Tri-Tip itself was a piece of meat that was ignored for years until it was an accident, essentially, is what brought it to prominence here in California.
Right, and it was these two guys in Santa Maria at a Safeway store, right?
At a Safeway store, yeah, in the late 50s.
Yeah.
The meat manager, a guy named Bob Schutz.
Right.
They were doing their meat cutting for the day, and they got all their big primal cuts out and had the piece that's called the Tri-Tip, this piece here, sitting on the counter.
Tri-Tip because it's three corners.
Three corners, correct. And that was a name that was later given by Bob Schutz. He's actually named this thing.
Yeah.
But they usually cut this up for stew meat because a couple of reasons. One, this was a hard piece to get to when you're a butcher.
Yeah.
And it was easier just to throw it aside, cut that piece out, throw it in with whatever you were going to grind or cut it for stew meat rather than get it cut out.
And yesterday when we were talking, this cut of meat is below the butt, and in the inside.
Yes.
I know this is kind of a weird illustration. Where are you going there? But I mean, it's a really hard piece of meat to get to.
It is. The way it sits in there, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why it was ignored for so long.
Yeah. So that would just be part of the stew meat or whatever they would grind up for hamburger or whatever.
Exactly. But the butcher, this Larry Villegas, he cut these out and had them sitting on the counter. And during that day, and whether it was by accident or design, this Bob went over, grabbed that piece of meat, and stuck it on the skewers. They cooked all the meat on a skewer rotisserie over a flat grill, which a lot of people call a fajita grill or a Santa Maria grill today, it's called. But it's a flat grill. They had the red oak in it.
But the whole thing...
No, just a spit, just a one fork going through it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that's the way they cooked everything.
Right.
They cooked the top sirloins basically that way. And the guy just went over and stuck it through this thing and put it on there and went about his business.
Now, you're cooking today on this grill. You've got oak wood in here.
Yeah. Today, just for this.
California oak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The red oak.
The red oak.
The coastal red oak.
Yeah.
It's typical wood over there.
And it gives its own flavor because of this certain type of wood.
Yeah. It does have a distinct flavor, and that's what the tradition calls for that to be used with the Tri-Tip. You can use any wood with a Tri-Tip, it will come out good.
Sure, peach wood, plum wood, walnut, whatever you got, especially if
you don't have wood, it still comes out good.
Sure, because a lot of guys like to use the charcoal, or they have a gas grill.
It comes out fine on everything. Really, the key to it is the method of cooking, the way you cook it, and the seasoning you use on it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's really the key. The wood's not going to make you or break you, or whether it's a gas versus
Right.
charcoal. All that matters, and it helps add to it, and it helps add to the mystery of it all. But really, the tri-tip is pretty standalone, good piece of meat, as long as you cook it correctly.
Now, barbecue doesn't exist on the East Coast. They call it grilling back there, don't they?
Just the opposite. Grilling's California.
Oh, grilling's California.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically everything at 350 degrees or higher is grilling.
Right.
So, and that's what California does, grilling.
Yeah.
But we call it barbecue, and when we say barbecue, we mean grilling out here.
Yeah.
And when we say barbecue, we mean tri-tip. I mean, people assume tri-tip is what you're talking about when you say barbecue.
So it started in Santa Maria in the late 50s,
Yes.
1960, 1961. Bob Schutz and Larry Viegas, who was the meat cutter,
He was the butcher.
at
Yeah,
this
and he was-
Safeway store.
correct, in Santa Maria.
And this really was kind of an accident. I mean, they just
Well,
kinda
they cooked
had
it and were surprised because they knew it to be a tough
piece of
piece of
meat.
meat, but they never cooked it whole before.
Yeah.
And they never cut it that way. It was never
Sure.
cut to be eaten like that. So when they pulled it off and cut it, they said, "Man, this really is a good piece of meat. It has its own distinct flavor. It's tender."
Yeah.
And so they started playing with it and perfecting it, and they used it in that Safeway store, but they didn't sell it anywhere else. Later on, this Bob Schutz would go on to open another meat market over there, and he really promoted it. He taught customers how to cook it, how to season it, just how to do the whole thing.
Right.
He made it pretty popular. And then there was a chain of grocery stores in the Central Coast there called the Williams Brothers.
Right.
And they kind of picked up on his little deal there of doing this tri-tip, and they really got it out there to everybody because they
Yeah.
had several stores. And that's how the Valley ended up getting it because, as you know, the Valley here, a lot of people go over to the coast of Pismo,
Well,
San
right.
Luis
Well, we
Obispo,
got a
that
lot of
whole
our
area.
kids going to Cal
Over
Poly.
to schools over there.
Yeah.
And they would get it over there because it was cheap. Back then, this would sell around $1 a pound when all the other meat was $2 a pound.
Yeah.
You know, for the good steaks and
So
stuff.
it was a cheaper cut of meat to buy.
Very cheap.
Yeah.
And when people from the valley here would buy it by the caseloads and bring it back here to barbecue.
Really?
And really, that's how it got such a foothold here in the valley.
How far east has tri-tip gone?
California is
That's
it. It really
just-
is.
Does it stop right at the
It
border?
really does.
If you stop into Nevada, people don't know what the hell you're talking about.
It's true. Today, in the 2000s, I'm seeing it, and people are aware of it around the country.
Yeah.
Most of them have never had it, but they've heard of it. You see it in Arizona a little bit because they come over here to barbecue.
Well, it's interesting. You were telling me the meat packers send briskets west.
And we send
and
briskets east.
Oh, we send briskets east,
Yeah.
and they send tri-tip west.
Yeah, California's a big cattle producing state.
Sure.
So we have a lot of cattle, but
Yeah.
we don't eat the brisket here in California. Literally, you don't see it anywhere,
Right.
except for at my restaurant. You
Right,
know,
sure.
Very few places have brisket because California is tri-tip.
Yeah.
And so the butchers, the packers, everybody here, when they're cutting, all those briskets get
Yeah.
shipped to the Midwest typically, and they don't have any use for it there. Again, to them, it was a hard piece of meat to get to. You know, they just soon throw it in the stew pots.
Sure.
And
be
now
done
they
with
ship,
it.
but now they're shipping them to
Yeah.
California. And as you know now, tri-tip in the store, it's like buying a filet in New York. It's so expensive.
Yeah, no,
but it's about
not
demand.
cheap.
It's
and
about
it's
demand.
and it's pre-season too.
Yeah,
typically.
a lot of it is.
Yeah.
And they sell the Santa Maria mystique with it. Is what they're trying to sell.
Sure.
The seasoning package and all that
But
whole
even
deal.
the Santa Maria tri-tip is a coined phrase now.
It
And
is actually
so
copyrighted
it's
by the
copyrighted
Chamber
by
of
the-
Commerce in
yeah.
Santa Maria.
So now you have to say Santa Maria style.
Yeah.